Good afternoon, everyone. This is Byung Kim, the program director of Korean Cultural Society, and I'd like to welcome everyone, including today's speaker, Ryan Kim. And this is the fifth year of the Korean Heritage Symposium series. And today we are fortunate to have Ryan Kim to speak about the foundation of Korean cuisine with the very basic Jang and rice. And Ryan has a very colorful uh, background and career, and he is now the CEO of Kimsi Market, which is an online platform for the Korean um, the the food elements. And the kimchi market is around for direct sourcing of natural Korean foods from the farmers and the artisans, and is a trusted supplier for numerous Michelin-starred establishments, including Meju. Yeah. And he has an illustrious career spanning many different disciplines: banking, government, politics, and consumer technology and business consultancy. And he has a master's degree in politics from NYU. And before that, he has a dual degree in statistics and economics from UC Berkeley. So I'd like to welcome Ryan for a very interesting topic and seminar today. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kim, for such a wonderful introduction. Hi, everyone. My name is Ryan. I'm joining you from Brooklyn, New York, and I hope you have a nice weather there too in New York. We had a wonderful spring weather yesterday. Today is very opposite. It's cold, raining. Um, I was thinking that, oh, what's going to happen in Boston? I know it's always colder, but spring is coming. I started, as Dr. Kim mentioned, um, my previous background has nothing to do with food. I was aspired to work in politics. Before that, I worked in banking. And uh, there was one I actually didn't care about food, uh, but one thing happened, and that triggered me to start thinking about my identity. My conclusion was I'm immigrant. I don't have big family. I needed to stay healthy. My family had to stay healthy. If time allows, I will also, at the end, can share my personal story why I started this venture. We started it 6 years ago with no experience, with the five Korean pantry items. And now we have 870 plus different products that we directly source from Korean farmers, artisans, and craftsmakers, food masters, all in Korea. And we're very committed to promote Korean culture, especially Korean cuisine. And it's sometimes sad to see still that Korean food is considered not the value of the Korean food is not reflected in people's perception. There are deeper meaning, philosophy, and science, and history, and our heritage is involved in Korean food. And today, I'm very delighted to have this opportunity to share what I learned so far, and as a title, with the title of The Base of Korean Cuisine. We're going to um, we're going to talk about two things. One is Chang and rice. And I am uh, okay. So uh, this is what we're going to talk about today. Do you see my second screen? Yes, I
Yes, with yes, with
okay.
yeah.
Okay. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about Jang and we're going to talk about rice. And you might know if you have a Korean background, um, but there are sort of lost science and stories. I would like to share that with you briefly. And we're going to talk about rice. Why I think the rice is also a base of Korean cuisine. So I chose this picture. This is a picture of Gyeongbokgung. The door is open. Now we are getting inside of the palace where the deeper meaning of Korean foundation can be found. Let's go. So Jang, this is where the Jang is being made. This is a place in Damyang, Jeollanam-do. That's a southwestern part of Korea. This is the house of the Jang master, Ki Sun-do. If you look her up, you can find numerous videos and CNN, Netflix series about her and her 50 plus years of Jang making. And this is where many chefs around the world come and learn from her. She's 50, no, 80 some years old, and wonderful stories behind this. And we're going to talk about how the fermentation works, what's special about Jang, and the complexity of Jang with the example of soy sauce. So, what is fermentation? Uh, you can read this. Basically, fermentation is a biochemical process which organisms break down organic compounds to smaller and simpler materials. And it produces the with as a byproducts like alcohol, acids, or gases. And it creates the flavors and it can preserve food and it also creates beneficial nutrients. Wine, cheese are also a good example of fermentation. Different countries, different uh, cuisines or different countries have different way of doing fermentation and their main ingredients are different. So in Europe or Western world, it's a lot of times it's dairy products. So you make cheese and also grapes. Whereas in Asia, the southeastern countries like Thailand, Vietnam, their fermentation is more of, with the fish, and usually anchovies. Whereas northeastern countries like Japan, Korea, China are based on soybean. But even among those three northeastern Asian countries have different ways of making uh, chang or fermentation. And Korea has a very unique way of doing it, which I'm going to explain. So there was a fermentation. Now, what is chang then? How chang is different than the general concept of fermentation. I wrote chang in Korean language, and I also used a Chinese character. And the Chinese character, if you break it, it's a top part and the bottom part, then it means, it shows you what it means. So the top part means to lead or to mature and in the future. That's the meaning of the top part. And the bottom part means fermentation or alcohol. So Koreans call it yu. And the top part, we call it jang. So this particular word basically means a fermented or aged sauce. Or seasoning. And Korean fermentation, especially in Jang, I'm using the same highlights for the important words. So natural process, this is a natural process. Microorganisms break down proteins and carbs in soybeans. It's particularly, we mention soybeans, and producing amino acids, organic acids, a lot of probiotics, and beneficial enzymes that enhance both flavor and nutrition. So Korean Jang is on based on soybeans. Soybean has a fats, it has uh, proteins, it has carbs, and these microorganisms actually break them. And byproducts are the enhanced flavor, nutrition, etc. So the process is the protein becomes amino acids and it creates the umami flavor and a lot of nutrition. And carbs, carbohydrates, it becomes simple sugars that creates a sweetness and organic acids. So that creates different flavors and taste. There's also fats, and fats creates the rich flavors. And this is chang. And yes, more common thing now is called gochujang, which is red chili paste. But red chili paste was not really popular until a few hundred years ago. Before that, for thousands of years, it's considered that the chang or the uh, chang basically because it's a soybean based, usually it means soybean paste or soy sauce. So doenjang or 간장. And this are produced in the same earthen pot. So the process is this. In a big earthen pot, as you used to see, saw in the first the picture at Kisundo, it's a handmade earthen pots. You put the salty water, so basically very clean water from the mountains or from underground, and you use either 3 years sun-dried sea salt or bamboo salt. She uses bamboo salt that she makes back of the garden, which I really appreciated. And you put the soybean block. Soybean block is made of soybeans. So they put it, that's a typical process. You have a water, you have a salt, um, then you put the soybean block made of soybean, non-GMO. Korea doesn't allow any GMO. And you cover the top and let it sit for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and go on. And certain time pass, you open, and then you will see the liquid part and illiquid part. So liquid part becomes soy sauce. Illiquid part, the residuals, becomes soybean paste. And both are the base of Korean cuisine. That's why the culinary scholars say 90% of Korean cuisine is based on jang. Jang usually means or meant soybean paste and soy sauce. Gochujang is a newbie, but that's more popular now because of tteokbokki and a lot more. And bibimbap, you use gochujang on top. That's how it became uh, a lot more popular. By the way, I know this is a scholarly academic symposium that you guys normally run, but I was thinking I wanted to let's talk about chemicals and something that's nobody's interest. So I wanted to give you more practical uh, suggestion and knowledge, so that you can apply it to your life as I did and become or have a healthy lifestyle. Mm, and the Chang is complex. You think about wine. Wine doesn't have a sell by date or best by date or expiration because it ferments. And longer, the more it's aged, it's considered more premium a lot of times, or it gets values. Korean fermentation, natural fermentation is the same. And I picked soy sauce as an example. And I'll show you how complex it is, how different than the regular soy sauce that you will see at places where you have easier access, like supermarkets. So even Chang, I'm talking about soy sauce. It's depending on how long you aged it, we have a different names. So first one is 청장. 청 means clear and transparent. 장 is what you know now, what it means. So 1 year aged. That's if you see the color, it's it's brown. It's saltier because it's not fully aged yet. But it has its own benefit and use. So many chefs that we work with use this for 나물, which is or saute vegetables, and they have a specific way of using this. And if you age it a little bit longer, then it's a 간장. So that's 1 to 2 or 2 to 3 years aged. It's darker, as you see, and it's a little bit sweeter than 청장. And you can use it for marinating meats. Uh, you can you can replace this for your regular use of your soy sauce. And now 진장 is called 5 years plus aged one. So uh, it has a really rich umami flavor. You can actually smell it, and even the smell is not just the flat. It has, because it's more aged and naturally fermented, it creates more aroma, and you can use it for more specialty food and yakshi. And when we hosted Kisundo and her family about a year and a half ago in New York City, we hosted an event for her. Actually, four different events at four different Michelin-starred restaurants. And what she served was 간장 tea or soy sauce tea. And everyone was thinking, what is soy sauce tea? And everyone loved it. And she said, no, you just need to have a warm water and a few drops of 진장, the 5 year. And everyone loved it. And so clean taste because it's fully fermented and it's naturally fermented. So it has full of probiotics and taste buds is very complex. It has a complex profile, taste profile, because of the power of a fermentation or power of chang making. And she also used the 간장 or 진장 for kimchi. So she calls it 간장 kimchi or soy sauce kimchi. I never heard about 간장 kimchi or soy sauce kimchi before I met her. And basically, she doesn't use salt. She uses this. And I heard in certain areas in Korea, there are certain people use the aged soy sauce instead of using salt. And she doesn't use the uh, 젓갈, which is a fermented fish, because you don't want that smell. So it was very clean, and there are many use cases that even chefs use. Now, I have to tell you a crazy story. Uh, we have something called seed soy sauce. I personally tasted 373 years old soy sauce and 400 years old soy sauce when I visited last time. And as Chef Huni Kim, who received first well Michelin star for the first time on Korean cuisine in the world, he actually was there. He tasted it, and he said he could taste that taste lasted for about 10 plus minutes. Because it's very complex. It's hard to explain those things. It's sweet, so it's definitely I felt there was balsamic vinegar in a way. It's very thick. And you might question like how 370 or 400 years old soy sauce can last. So in earthen pot, it it evaporates a little bit. So every year you only make 간장 or soybean. You are making the jang making. You do jang making only once a year. It's usually winter time. It has to be winter time. And you only make once, and you take the best jang or soy sauce, and you put that into the seed soy sauce pot. And that's a family's heritage. That soy sauce or seed soy sauce is handed over and inherited by the firstborn's wife and the next generation, the firstborn's wife. So the firstborns receive that soybean or soy sauce pot, and you keep passing it down to the generations. So this particular family, they did it for 13 generations. So the history goes all the way back, and they don't sell it. You can only taste it when they do the family rituals and when a very special guest comes. Now, you might ask yourself, how is it different than the soy sauce that I see, or soybean paste, or gochujang that I see at the supermarket shelves? First, you read back of the label. You will find many lists, a long list of ingredients. That's not necessary. Soy sauce or soybean paste, you only need three ingredients. So that is water, as I said, salt, and soybean paste block or meju, soybean block. And you keep it for a long time, either 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, all the way to 373 years. Whereas the factory made ones, it's made and produced, they churn out from the factory within a week or two. They can wait that long. And they have to make them, they have to mimic the taste and color. So they use a lot of coloring. And that's why you will see a lot of chemicals, coloring aspects, artificial ingredients, because they don't ferment. And when it comes to soy sauce, it's usually the salty liquid. And that's not what you want, because that salty taste is made by using the chemicals so that it only lasts, comes with the one flat taste, which is salt. And it's not even good for your health. But it will say as an ingredient, it will say just a soybean block and water because the chemical things is not listed. So that's what I can tell you. We're going to go over to rice. Is there any questions?
Does the other countries do ferment soybean too? How about the natto
Yes,
in Japan?
yes, Japan does that too.
Yeah.
But Japan inputs, they insert the yeast to make it faster fermentation.
Uh,
Korean cuisine, Korean jang making is not. We don't put anything. It's like you put it there in earthen pot and leave it there under the sun when it whether it rains or shine, you let it there, and the fungi will make the breaking the carbs and the protein. So if you open the jar, sometimes you will see the colors changes. And the experts know that whether this is like fermenting is going well, or if the color is not very up to their standard, that something is wrong. Then they either take out some and then monitor it more. Uh, and soy, like gochujang, for example, the same way you put the things in the earthen pots and leave it there. Sometimes you will see the bubbles because it ferments. But at the end, they just scoop up and put it in a jar. So if you have the naturally, wildly fermented jang, either so soy sauce or soybean paste or gochujang, if it is really, really natural, you can see sometimes it bubble up, overflow. Then that's still good because that means there's no process at all. But yes, it doesn't look good. So um, that's why I put companies they put a lot of preservatives without so that they can avoid those overflowing happening because they can't really explain things to people. Any other questions? So I can go on to rice. For rice, I have to start with like more global view. It start with the Asia and the West, and how those things changed the Asian culture, and how it changed, or when it comes to Korea, how did it work, and why this is important thing in our cuisine. This picture, by the way, it's in Gure. Gure is another part of Jeollanam-do, where we kimchi market uh, buys a lot of rice from. And you see, this is not like America, where the massive, massive size of fields, cornfields, and rice paddy, where you machines go around and you spray a lot of chemicals. You see this? This is you can't do that. It's a human being. Actually, the farmers have to go out and care of this because it's not flat. And this is in a way very typical uh, uh, sort of farming uh, lands. Um, so it's not because Korea is a small country with a lot of mountains. It's hard to have a very flat, big land. So this is a one good example, very, very clean area. I'm going to talk about history and how it changed Asian and Western culture and anatomy of rice. At the end, you will learn how to choose the right rice for you. So rice and wheat, these two main staples shape the Asian and Western culture. And history changed. Why? So the top part. Uh, so these two world maps represent the top one is uh, the bigger the size of the country means they produce that much rice. The bottom is the wheat production. So more the wheat production it is in a country, then the country looks bigger. So on top, you see North America. It's like very, very skinny and slim. It's very not much. Whereas the bottom, you see Western world. Europe and North America have is actually a sizable proportion. Now, what does it mean? For rice to grow, or Western world, well, wheat first. So Westerners eat bread, and that's made of wheat, and it can grow well even in the dry and hostile areas. Whereas rice, you need two factors. Two conditions has to be met. One is water and the warm temperature. That's the two conditions that you have to have. So Asia happened to have a rice, and Asia has water, but you cannot rely on the raindrops only. So you have to control the water. So that means that creates a needs for the irrigation. So even 3,000 years ago in China, there were already big irrigation projects took place. And in order to have the major irrigation projects, you have to have a centralized government or someone very powerful. You need a big labor force and someone has to control them and force them to work. That's why in Asia, always we had unified or kingdoms, centralized governments. Big population needed, so we always had bigger or higher birth rates than Western world. You need a labor, centralized government, so that's political system, and the people's culture also changed. Because you have to work with other people, you are conscious about other people's views. And that's why we built this sense of community and very sort of community oriented views. And that's why you always have a higher respect for elders. And that has been very popular culture in Asia. Size of the cities were always bigger than Western world. And empires is the scale is massive. It's big. Whereas Western world, yes, you need a labor. So for many, many thousands of years, agriculture has been the most important industry. But you don't have to have hundreds of thousands of people working on the irrigation system. So it's been very individualistic. And for example, Spain, so the Europe has been state divided or city states for a very long time. Italy was unified in 1800s and Spain was 14, 1500s, whereas Asia is not the case. And now think about rice. So there are many ways of categorizing rice, but most common way is this: short grain, medium grain, long grain. And each one has different use and different characteristics. Usually medium grain is for risotto or paella from the bomba rice. They have a specific rice, and whereas short grain is what Koreans and Japanese eat. And long grain, as you know, this is for Indians and Vietnamese, other Asian countries. That's the majority of the rice. Japonica rice, Indica rice. That Japonica rice means more short grain side, and Indica is longer grain. By the way, there is no such a name, sushi rice. That's only for marketing purposes and to just show to uh, persuade people without lying, persuade people that this is really good short grain rice or good rice, but that's not short grain. Now, let's think about rice. As you know, many Korean words, uh, 밥이 보약이다. I'll say it's some Korean idioms, but basically that says rice is the best medicine. We live on the rice power, pap심, and taxes we paid in ancient times or even Joseon dynasty, the last kingdom. Uh, People paid taxes as with the rice. Rice was the form of tax payment. And politics too. How we collect the rice, what became a political battle, even in Joseon dynasty, and even now in Korea. Now, in 21st century, Korea is divided. The Korean politicians are divided on how we uh, support the farmers who grows rice. And one party is saying that government has to buy all the excessive rice. The other party, the ruling party, is saying, no, that's nonsense. We have to take another approach. So the rice has been the center of Korean politics and taxes and even culture for a very long time, even now. And rice, this is we just dissected the rice, and I'll show you uh, this. So this is the process. Rice grows from the rice paddy. It has a lot of water. It maintains a lot of water inside of the each grain. And you cut it and you dry it because it's so wet. Then you remove the outer layer. That's called hull. That's not, you can eat it. It's an eatable part. So if you remove the hull, most outer layer, then it becomes brown rice. So you see 0%, that's brown rice. And it is covered with the bran. There's a bran layer. That's a brownish color. Uh, and it covers the inside, the endosperm, which is white rice. And if you cut out the outer bran completely, then it becomes white rice. So this applies to whether it's a short grain, medium grain, or long grain. This is the process. So brown rice and white rice are basically the same rice, but it's depending on how much layer, the bran layer you cut out. And also, if you look at the bran or the rice inside, there are two molecules. One is starch. The other one, the one is amylopectin, more complex molecule, and singular molecule, or the linear molecule, is called amylose. So amylose determines the sweetness. Amylopectin determines how sticky it is. When you cook the rice, you have the rice pot, you put the water, you put the rice, and now heat is being applied. Usually flame is the best, but now a lot of people use the electric um, that cooker. So heat is applied, it breaks the molecules, water comes inside, and it expands the rice. That's why the cooked rice is always bigger than the raw rice. That's how the rice is being made or cooked. Uh, Now, kimchi market, we supply a lot of rice to Michelin-starred restaurants and very health conscious customers who are online. Like wine, you have a label and you read label. Then you know what grapes it is, where it was harvested or made, what year it was, the vintage year, etc. So you can read a lot from the label. Same thing for rice. So you can see the rice variety, the harvest year, milling date, and protein amount. And I can show you what the variety means. So Korea, I told you, we Koreans produce about 3.7 million ton of rice per year. It's all short grain, 3.7 million. America produces 11 million ton of rice per year. Now, in Korea, where short grain is being grown, um, there are 300 different varieties of rice. They're all short grain. So if you go to coffee shop, Blue Bottle or specialty coffee place, you will see the names of coffee beans. Same for rice. So we have a Golden Queen, we have Samgwang, we have Saechongmu, we have Charm Dream, we have Kawaji. There are 300 different kinds. And each rice is different in terms of aroma, texture, the body size are all different. And I just pull up one example, Golden Queen. So firmness is different, stickiness is different. And by looking at these, you can choose the most preferential rice variety. In America, what's problem is this. The rice usually, among 11 million ton of rice, only 1% is short grain, 24% is medium grain, and 75% long grain. So what you buy at the supermarkets thinking this is Korean rice because there's a Korean name, they have nothing to do with Korea. Or if you buy a Japanese name thinking this is a Japanese rice, it has nothing to do with Japan. If you really want to check, you want to see if there's any product of Korea or product of Japan label. Now, a lot of people are confused. They also put the US fancy rice or fancy grade rice. It only means this is white rice. That means they remove the brand completely. It doesn't mean anything that is like premium or is better. And they put those. Now they put the names like 경기미 or 리천사. That's the lowest quality rice from California, the Sacramento Valley. So all the Korean names rice that you buy at the markets is not from Korea. It has nothing to do with it. It's a medium grain. And you will not find any dates. There's no harvest year. You don't know when it was harvested. You don't know when it was milled. Mill date is very, very important. That's what determines the rice quality. So from there, it gets transferred to West Coast or other parts of the this country in a trailer. So I said rice selection, storage, and cooking. These are the important things. So you want to pick about 40 to 50% of a rice variety or rice taste is determined by which rice variety that you chose. You don't want a lot of things mixed. You want the single origin, single variety rice. And Korea used to have 1,500 different kinds of varieties. But during Japanese colonial period, Japanese also eat short grain, so they wanted to grow the rice they want. So they replaced a lot of Korean rice varieties. Now, so Korea lost a lot of them, and a lot of research happened so that we revived to 300 level now. California or America is big country. We have many different kinds of rice varieties. So you don't see any specific variety name. So that means whichever the rice that was milled, they just get mixed up and they just put them or packaged in whatever names that the Korean supermarkets or Japanese supermarkets provided them and just put them in and they distribute like a commodity. Freshness is important too. So that determines about 35, 40% of the rice eating experience too. Because once the bran is removed, oxidation happens, same as coffee. You don't want to drink the coffee that has been roasted a while back. You want something fresh, same as rice. So Korean rice, Japanese rice, because the way we eat and consume it, we want to have it fresh. So meal date is important. Harvest date is less important. Now, protein amount is also important because if you have a rice that has high protein amounts, then this is what's going to happen. You have seen the rice, the cooked rice. if it's a day old or time passes, then it gets hard and it turns yellow. That's because of a protein amount. You want protein amount low. So any protein amount that is 7% or low is considered premium. American rice, you find at the supermarkets, that's double digit, way higher, a high range in double digits. That's because two reasons. One, either the rice variety itself is very low quality. That's why it has high protein amount. And the other reason is that farmers, the rice growers, spray a lot of nitrogen fertilizer. And they spray a lot of chemicals and nitrogen fertilizer because that's the only way they can make more money. Korea, over past 30 years, our per person rice consumption dropped significantly, about 55%. So 30 years ago, it was about 125 kilos. That means about 250, 260 pounds. Now it's 53 kilos or 54 kilos. So that's about 110 pounds. So more than half dropped. Why? We have a lot more alternatives. People eat burgers, pizzas, pastas. So rice consumption has been dropping for a long time. So Korea, but this is a national security issue. Korea have to have their own uh, main staple. So government has been buying a lot of excessive rice. Um, if you look at soybeans and corns, etc., Korea is very low in the food independency, independent rate. Um, they only they import 80% or 75% of their consumptions of other grains and important staples, whereas rice is about 97%. So farmers, they want to grow very premium rice, whereas America, you grow rice, but you have no leverage on the pricing. You have to sell your rice to the guys or companies who have a massive industry infrastructure that mills the rice. So they have no leverage. The only way they can make money is that they produce more. That's why they spray a lot of chemicals and nitrogen fertilizers. Now, storage is also important. You want to have the single origin rice freshly milled, and you want to keep it in the refrigerator. That's in order to have the maximum freshness. And cooking is less important because we know how to cook and you can find it. But those rice varieties, the quality of the rice variety, and when it was milled, the freshness and storage are three most important things. And Koreans now they're more conscious about the rice. So premium rice, they want to have a healthier rice. That's what's happening in Korea. And the chefs are very conscious about those. And that's just a small, I call it movement. A lot of people are very are aware of what they eat. Talk about the rice because our Korean cuisine, you think about it, you have in the center in front of you, that's bowl of rice. You have a side dishes and you have the main dish. Those main dishes or side dishes were developed because of the rice. So main staple, there are three main staples in the world. So in order to be main staple, you have to have a high amount of calories, easier to store. That was the corn, rice, and wheat. But corns are normally from Africa and uh, Latin America. But corns are usually for the feed, for feedstocks, for animals. So wheat and rice has become the main. That's why Western culture was developed around the main staple. The rice is what determines, at least in Korea, that's how uh, dominated became a dominating factor um, in terms of our cuisine and what we eat, how we. That's the end of my talk. We just hit the about 50 minutes, and I'm open to any questions that you guys have.
Thank you very much, Ryan. And I think there is one question in the chat which you already have touched on, and that the question is, were you able to try such an old batch? So I think that's about 400
Oh,
year old Jang.
yes. Uh, we travel a lot to Korea, and we kimchi market, work with a lot of masters, food masters. So uh, I also went a lot. I had lunch with the haenyos, the female divers in Jeju Island. They also served me the seaweed that they harvested like by hand. Also, this particular Chang master, I visited a few times. And we also organized the culinary trip. Um, this time it's going to be October. So we lead small. Normally, the chefs are the ones like who really wants to go, and we take them to Korea, and then we actually make changs with them or kimchi master. Then we spend 8 hours with the kimchi master, and that's how we get to taste, and we talk and we learn, and we also run that educational sessions.
Okay, any other questions? So you can unmute yourself and um, welcome to ask Ryan Kim. I have one question, and you may have mentioned it on the way, but the my question is how come the low protein in the rice is better? Because typically you want to have a food which has more protein, right?
Yeah, so protein is coming usually from you can have protein from soybeans, meat, or tofu, and other things. As I explained, rice, you don't want protein. And rice is not the source of protein. Rice is source of carbs. And because of the reasons, you want the rice have low protein amount. Like for example, our rice, one of our rices is called 새청무. It has 5.8%, which is the lowest. You don't get to see them in anywhere in America. So what that means is after you cook the rice and it um, even a day after, it's still shiny and it's still soft. That is because of a protein amount. By the way, you know, I've seen, a lot of people use a rice cooker, and the most expensive rice cooker I've ever seen is a Japanese rice cooker, $2,900. And it only has one feature. It can even keep warm. It's just their bold statement, the value add statement is we can make the rice most deliciously. And that's the concept. Like I'm practicing it. I'm just sharing because I became so obsessive about rice quality and all the food quality in general. I use the yugi, the bronze copper bowl, and I use the flame And in 20 minutes, you have a very, very delicious rice. And you eat it uh, when you start eating. You finish at that one 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 eating. Like the 2,900. I don't have $2,900 rice cooker, but that was the concept that they had. The rice. So for your health benefits, don't buy big bulk rice. It's never for customers. It's for sellers. And you want to buy the small batch, something fresh, keep it in the refrigerator. The rice from America tend to have high arsenic amount. Arsenics can cause you cancer. Yes, you can wash them a lot, but you don't want to do it all the time. And arsenics comes from soil and water. So if you see, just pay attention because we eat rice every day. And don't buy, unless you know the farm, don't buy the rice from, say, I hope no one is from Arkansas, but Arkansas, you don't want to touch those rice unless you know the rice farmer. Um, California is a little bit better. That's why uh, some rice says product of California or grown in California, but still it has about on average 3 to 4 times higher amount of arsenic than Korean rice.
I had a question about
Sure.
hangari.
Yes.
And is there a different kind of hangari that is used depending on which kind of chang that you are making?
Actually, no. It's the same earthen pots. But you see this. This is
Yes,
where Jukjangyeon is.
yes,
So wintertime, summertime, Korea summer is brutally hot and
yes,
humid.
yes.
That you will see if you open it,
Mm-hmm.
you will see like a lot of fungi. Like it looks ugly,
Yes,
but that's the process that it has to go through, right? When
right.
it's cold, when it's hot, when it's raining, when it's dry, and the nature does amazing work and magic. And 3 years later or 5 years later, you will have wonderful, very umami rich, very, very healthy condiments or sauce that you can use
Mm-hmm.
for French cuisine and Italian cuisine, and not only just Korean cuisine. And that's why we have no salespeople because we are not from the industry and we're just focused on the the relationship with the producers and the
Mm-hmm.
quality. We're very, very obsessed with quality. That's why Daniel Boulud, Zhang George, such a big name French restaurants are using our Korean, natural Korean ingredients. They even buy, like at a time, like 600 pounds of kimchi, freshly made in Korea. We ship by air and they
Mm.
age it in their refrigerator so that 6 months later they serve, or 1 year later, they serve their special diners. And yes, we're talking about Korean cuisine, and I'm talking about the the K wave, really, the food. And I truly believe, personally, if someone asks me, Korean food, which means literally Jang, can make people very healthy. And this is not just applicable to Korean cuisine. This is You can apply it to many things like lamb, chicken, or cauliflower, and cheese board. It has many, many use cases. You can also follow us. I didn't have the um, email sign up or ebook, so you can freely download the recipe ebook that we created. Um, but this QR code is our Instagram, so we're going to make more useful information there. So you can scan that. We're Kimchi Market. Thank you, Dr. Kim, for having me, and thank you everyone for your time and enjoy your evening.
Okay, so this to remind you, the past symposia recordings are in YouTube. The society's YouTube play channel playlist. And thank you again, Mr. Ryan Kim, for a very interesting perspective on the Jang and rice.